Okay guys, so we are on location at the West Phoenix franchise location. I actually came in today to help Tristan, who is the head artist of the West Phoenix franchise location, to help him pour this table. I actually did a sample for this lady, so he just wanted to make sure that he had it exactly the way that she had decided that she wanted it. So we're going to do kind of a wood look technique. It's a form of our wood look technique, and we're going to add just a hint of blue at the very end. So it's going to be a pretty fun little project. So here we go. So we're starting with our liquid walnuts and our metallic brass, and we are just going to pour these out in a linear fashion. You don't have to pour complete lines when you pour, but you can pour complete lines. You just kind of want to make it random. So that one's going to be complete. Come in here. It helps that I'm 6'5" and have very long arms for these wide projects. I don't have to walk all the way around. I don't want to be too repetitious with the pattern, but I want to try to get this laid down relatively evenly across this piece. So for this technique, there's actually a lot of different ways that you can go about spreading out your epoxy. I personally like to use my hands more than anything else. So for the initial spread, if you're going to use this exact technique for the wood look, I like to use my hands, but you want to lay them down pretty flat on your fingers. Now I'm not laying my whole palm down, I'm kind of laying my fingers flat, and I'm going to spread this product out. The idea is, on this initial pass, is just to get the board covered. Once we get the board covered, I'm going to wipe my hand off, then I'm going to go more to like a comb with my fingers, and I'm going to create a wood grain. Then we're going to come in behind that, we're going to take a little bit of our Cambridge blue, and we're going to add some slivers of blue, mix that in with a stick before we hit it with our isopropyl, and that's going to be our finished project. So one very important thing to note, and if you've watched our tutorial videos on YouTube, you know that I'm always talking about pigment and how pigment and different types of pigment is your friend whenever you're doing something like this. Our two colors, one is a liquid, one is a metallic. If they were both metallic or both liquid, we wouldn't get near as cool of an effect out of this piece as we're going to get because we got the two different types of pigment. Our highlight color is also a metallic. You can do kind of the same thing with spray paints if you want to, but this particular customer, she liked it with the metallic blue. I always want to make sure your edges are good and coated because you want everything to just flow nice and evenly over the edges of your piece on all sides. We're not trying to be perfectly straight. We don't want to go crazy squiggly, but we just kind of want it to look kind of natural. Generally speaking, I like to kind of do 2 passes with my fingers in each area. And most of the time that gives us a really nice effect. If you just do 1 pass, sometimes it's just not enough. It kind of just looks like you ran your fingers through it. But if you do the 2 passes, it looks more natural. The more loose and free you are with the epoxy, the less rigid you are, the better results you're going to get. You can stop right here. If you are going to stop right here, you'd want to give this a quick torch just to get rid of any surface bubbles from dragging our hands and stuff through it and spreading out the epoxy. But we're going to continue on. We're going to, I'm actually going to give this a quick torch just to make sure everything looks right. Then I'm going to add the blue. Then we're going to hit it with isopropyl alcohol. So stay tuned. So this is our Cambridge blue. This is a metallic color. And I'm just wanting to get some small areas of blue. I'm going to get a little bit down here on this end. This is also something to think about if you're going to do, whether you're doing marble or whether you're doing wood look. You're going to get a lot prettier faces on the ends wherever your grain is going, because you're going to get a lot more flow over. You're going to get a better waterfall on those faces. So make sure if you have a bright, bold color like this, that you get a few spots where it is going to go down that face, because it's just going to make it look more realistic, like it's all the way through the piece instead of just sitting on the very top. I'm going to make one spot of this blue bigger than the others. I've just found that having that one kind of focal point spot that draws people's attention is a good idea with this type of effect. So probably going to want it to be somewhere in the middle. Kind of looking at it right here, might go right in this area. Tristan, what do you think?
Yes, right in there.
Okay. Want to go here, or you want to go right in the middle of that diamond?
Maybe the diamond right in there.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm kind of looking kind of cool. So you'll notice I'm putting much more blue right there, because I want this spot to be kind of bold. I'm going to take the same stick. I don't really want to add any more blue just yet, but I'm going to take the same stick, and now I'm going to try to blend in the blue and make it fit with the grain that we've already got in the piece. I'm just going to come back in and just going to go back and forth and just try to blend this in and make it look like part of the grain. I just want them to pop just a little bit. This one's going to be just a little bit different than the rest. These usually require just a little bit more work, and sometimes you have to walk away from them for a minute, let them settle out, and then come back. So if you notice right here, see there's a little drop of blue, and we got a line and a couple drops. So just make sure also up here, we got a couple more drops that are a little further away. So whenever you're going to spread these out, before I go up in here to this main, if I see those drops, I just kind of, they're so small, I'm just going to kind of bury those. Because what I don't want to do is when I hit it with isopropyl, I don't want to just have dots showing up in our grain. See these right here, these are a good example. So I've already spread out that blue, but there's a dot there and a dot there. So I'm just gonna, they're so small, I can just pretty much get rid of them. Just kind of look and make sure everything looks good. Tristan, do you have any issues with the size or the amount or the shape of any of the blue spots?
No, it looks good, and I like the way the knots are coming up.
Yeah. So I'm just going to take, this isn't rocket science, especially with the wood grain technique. It's pretty easy. It's just a matter of running the stick through it a few times and not going perfectly straight, and it'll look good. Now, when we hit this with isopropyl, you won't really be able to tell any difference in what I just did there and the parts that we did with just my fingers. If I hit this with a really hard pull, I get a really fine mist, which is going to make it pretty consistent across this piece. If I pull it barely and I get this splattery, I'm getting some really big drops and some really small spots. Those big drops are going to create larger circles. The smaller spots is just going to kind of fracture the lines and let it be. So I'm really happy with the amount of movement and the amount of kind of natural look that we have. So I'm going to keep these kind of a fine mist for this one. Just because I don't want any spots to go absolutely crazy with big, large blobs on my isopropyl, with the exception of that spot right there. And then part of doing these is being able to see it with your eyes as you're going. So this is exactly what I was talking about with the explanation. We got a big drop here and a big drop there. And those are going to affect because we have a lot of metallic pigment in here. So you got two choices. I can either come in and start dabbing those, Or just to kind of blend it in and make it look, I'm just going to add a few more bigger spots in this area, and they should just kind of blend out and go away. This is our main focal point of this table. We got a big drop right in the middle. I don't like that at all because I'm not going to like that circle being in the middle of my, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my finger and get rid of that circle, and I'm just going to kind of reshape that just a little bit. Just kind of get it going back the same kind of way it was going before, and that'll blend right in and look great. So we got this big monster right here. Going to kind of do the same thing. Going around the perimeter, and what going around the perimeter is going to do is keep that isopropyl from expanding anymore. So then I can just kind of come back in here, just lightly take this stick and blend that back in. By the time this settles out, you won't be able to tell that we did that. So one thing you want to be a little bit cautious of when you are doing isopropyl on some of these techniques is not to flood out your epoxy with isopropyl. If you put too much isopropyl on the epoxy at one time, it'll just like bleed itself out. We kind of call it flooding it, and it will lose all the effect that you're actually trying to gain by putting isopropyl in to begin with. Really important, if you're going to make custom pieces like this, somebody hasn't just bought it off of your sample board wall. It's very important to actually do a sample and talk it through with the customer. Make sure that you're both on the exact same page before you do the piece, and I can promise you she's going to be ecstatic whenever she sees this based on the conversations that we've had already about it. Now that we've got the epoxy done, once this thing dries, we're going to prep it, we're going to top coat it, and then we're going to show you the installation of this. This is actually a tabletop. This is going to go over her existing table. We kind of built this as a sleeve to go over an existing glass top table. It's a little bit outside of the norm on what we do, but we are going to show you that we're a very versatile company and you got a lot of versatility in the workplace. So we'll see you on the next one.